Hi everybody, I'm back with a first edition Bismarck video session report. Purpose here is to simulate a two-player gaming experience and to test a couple of modifications that are freely available on BGG. I include some audio-visual flair for added immersion. During the course of the game, I will also discuss some useful tips and strategies for the base game. I will cover both sides. Please feel free to chime in with any comments. I'm all about strategies and experiences related to the old school Avalon Hill war games. Okay, so you might be thinking, how are you supposed to solo a game that's designed to be played opposed, double blind? Well, you can run it if you use a combination of programmed movements with some die rolls and a bit of common sense to resolve some key in-game decisions. I will explain as I go along, but before we get started, I have to introduce a couple of modifications that I want to test for this session. First, we have an adjusted hit record track submitted to BGG by a user named Lou Coatney. It's supposed to be more historically accurate than the original. He got some pushback in the comment section, but I like the intent behind it. So let's take a closer look. He gives the Bismarck more powerful secondary guns, but takes away some midship strength. In all these Bismarck games, the German flagship comes with quasi-magical armor anyway, so I get it. Did it have an abundance of secondary guns? Yeah, I guess so, but perhaps not the right type of armor-piercing ammo to give it an advantage. Anyway, the power of the King George V is toned down slightly. The Prince of Wales gets another gun factor up front. And I found this adjustment curious only because of the known problems this ship had with its equipment at the time of its deployment. The whole issue of it being rushed into service with known glitches at the time, which significantly reduced its combat effectiveness. The Rodney gets more swole up front and tougher overall, so it's now a truly scary proposition for the Bismarck in this variant. I'm okay with that. Ramillies gets a bit tougher, and both the Renown and the Repulse are likewise slightly buffed. Overall, I like it, so let's try it out. These adjustments do favor the British side, so that is why I decided to balance the new hit record tracks with something that should work in Bismarck's favor. And I'm talking about an expanded search board map submitted to BGG by a user named Louis XIV. And I like this idea. This is a simple mod that only required a little bit of work to flesh out the total play area. You notice you now have a wider Denmark Strait, more hiding spots closer to the coast of Norway. The Irish Sea is in play. But most significantly, the new map opens up the possibility of a channel dash. You can even notice the tiny B square south of England. That's pretty funny. With this adjustment, how much more difficult will it be to chase down and finally corner the Bismarck? I think that remains to be seen. I felt that because I decided to open up the English channel, it would only be fair to also include a couple of chance tables to heighten the risk factor of a dash. So here's what I came up with. First, I say the German player can only attempt a channel dash maneuver at night, but first they must roll on a table to determine if weather conditions could support such a move. It's only a 1 in 6 chance. If they do get a positive result, the German player may pass, but they still must then roll on the channel dash chance table to see what else may happen. There is a 1 in 3 chance the trip is uneventful. There is a mine strike result, a torpedo attack result, and so on. So the adjusted hit record tracks in the expanded search board with the channel dash option will be the mods I will experiment with for the purposes of this playthrough / session report. Okay, so let's begin with some strategy discussion. The Bismarck's opening move. There are 4 realistic possibilities here. 1 is the historical Denmark Strait route. 2 is the Norwegian Sea between Iceland and the Faroe Islands. 3 is the Faroe-Shetland Channel. 4 is the 100-mile gap, the one square on the board that separates the Shetlands from Scotland. Of course, in our game, the 5th option, the English Channel, is only available with a favorable die roll, but it also involves added risks. So perhaps it might be better left as an emergency option for the return trip home. So what is the best opening move? Even with a widened Denmark Strait in play this game, I prefer option 3, the Faroe-Shetland Channel. It is the most direct line to the wide open waters of the Atlantic Ocean, and I don't think it's even possible for the British to actually directly intercept the Bismarck on the first turn, even with cruisers, if the German player goes with this heading. However, what I'm going to do is pre-program a route for each breakout path and then resolve Bismarck's options with a 1d6 roll. And let's take a look at what I came up with. I will go with the Denmark Strait on a 1-2 result, Norwegian C3, Faroe Shetland Channel 4-5, and the Scotland Narrows on a 6. For solitaire play, I feel it's always a bit more fun to pretend that you have to make do with orders that come from higher up the chain of command. It keeps things interesting. Captain Lindemann had Admiral Lutyens on board overriding his decisions in real life, so makes sense. Now, as far as pre-programming Bismarck's movement as opposed to just winging it turn by turn the entire game as you go along, unfortunately, I think it's better to have a planned out route from the start, even though it might not be as fun to play the game that way. And why do I say this? Well, if you are the super competitive type, you can take advantage of the victory condition that states that Bismarck need only to sail until the morning of May 26th and return to port intact, more or less, for a single victory point. You could win the game 1-0 with a carefully planned, abbreviated sortie. The whole operation was supposed to be nothing more than a strong cover for the Prince Eugen anyway. Even still, everything here is easier said than done, but the point is, why risk the Bismarck beyond that cutoff date? It really makes no sense. If you are flying by the seat of your pants, two things can happen that can ultimately doom the Bismarck that I have seen. One is that you can stray too far away from the coast, and like I said before, prolong the mission longer than need be. The British released Force H after the 26th, too, so you'll have to deal with another aircraft carrier if you take too much time. And this makes the swordfish attack result on the combat chance table more dangerous for the German player, and that's reason enough for me to favor shorter missions. And two, I've seen this more than once, with rookie Bismarck players, they tend to panic a bit after the first confrontation with a British capital ship. Even if they sink it outright, they look at their damage track and say, OMG, the Bismarck is all shot up with damages, so reverse course, change heading back to a friendly port immediately. And you know what? It's a mistake. It can be a fatal mistake to do that too early. What can happen is the Bismarck ultimately finds itself loitering around a closed port for a couple of turns close to a coastline where no less than 50% of its movement options are taken away. And the next thing that happens is it gets sighted, then cornered, and then overwhelmed right outside a safe haven. So if you have a pre-game plan and stick with it, you have a better chance at avoiding these two pitfalls. I would only improvise with a Bismarck in a dire emergency. I guess the next thing to talk about is what should the actual plotting look like? I have some thoughts on that as well. I prefer sweeping direct movement, or rather straight lines during the day, and major course corrections or reversals at night. And you might say, obviously, as if the British don't expect just that. But what I say is, so what? That still means they have to back off at night or face the Bismarck at half gun strength after it changes course. And during the day, it's back to straight line movement. And the British aren't faster than the German ship. So whatever happens, most of the good guys will be chasing. So there shouldn't be continuous opportunities to intercept the Bismarck with battleships if the German player plots carefully. There will be some, but not as many as the British player might hope for. And finally, on the first time box of May 26, you want a planned arrival at a friendly port just in the nick of time, wherever that might be. Now let's talk about the British side. In the solo game, I'm just going to use common sense and die rolls to determine British movement. Whenever the Bismarck is not located, I drop little number chits on the search board, 1 to 6 for each British unit. They are actually war at sea damage counters, but they work well here. Anyway, then I roll to see which number comes up, and that represents the direction the British ship has to move. When the Bismarck is sighted, common sense limits British movement options, so I will still make movement rolls, but the possibilities get restricted to maybe A or B in the general direction of the Bismarck. Nevertheless, if you play a solo game, there is still room for strategy on the British side that I feel carries over into any opposed game. So we'll start with cruiser and aircraft carrier play. I think you can be as aggressive as possible with them. When you locate the Bismarck, they should move full speed towards its last known location. And this sounds obvious, But you really need the carriers within 4 squares of a target, and you really need cruisers on top of the Bismarck to shadow it so they can guide in the big guns of the Royal Navy. But what you can't do with the British is something similar with all your battleships. You have to be more careful than that. Why is this? Well, for one thing, the slower moving Ramillies and Rodney can't chase. They're too slow. They must lay in wait. Cover French ports as quickly as possible with these two units. You're allowed to do this. As a matter of fact, it says the Rodney and the cruiser Dorsetshire may start anywhere south of 55 degrees latitude. So in that case, it's going to have to be zone GA outside the port of Brest as far as I'm concerned. Just park the Rodney there. It's worth it. The Ramillies, sail it due east until you reach Saint Nazaire. That covers 2/3 of the French ports right there. You can mix it up, of course, make the German player guess which one is actually uncovered. Everything else, spread out evenly. There's no need to have more than one unit in any one zone. The most important thing to remember for the British is to avoid what I call the Pac-Man ghost train effect with your fast battleships. So like the Pac-Man video game, if you try to tail the Bismarck too closely, like a Pac-Man ghost, one expected course reversal might throw all your battleships off by 1 square behind the Bismarck. And if that happens even halfway through the game, the British have already lost potentially. Now, the German player won't know this, but unless he second guesses himself and doubles back again, the British player will always be 1 step behind the Bismarck with a little trailing train of battleships until the game ends. So to avoid this, what I like to do is try to have layers of 2 battleships holding hands following the Bismarck, not too close. You want room to anticipate where the Bismarck might head next. And what I mean by holding hands is that they are always adjacent on the search board. So if one makes contact, it just needs to last 3 combat rounds before its buddy appears on the combat board as direct tactical support. Behind the leading vanguard pair of battleships is a backup tandem, and behind that is a last line of defense. So always keep your battleships between the Bismarck and the coast of France or Norway. Once again, much easier said than done. But you just can't afford to blindly blunder after the Bismarck with your heavies. It's got to be something more measured than that. If and when you finally bring the Bismarck to combat, consider closing range on the second round. The Royal Navy, for the most part, is built for this. The majority of firepower is located up front on their ships, especially the newer ones. Don't just sit there and trade salvos at long range with the Bismarck. That would be playing right into the hands of the German side. Make him guess, make him uncomfortable. You want to run and gun early game, not so much late game. If and when you catch him already damaged, only then stick around and try to finish him off. Roll on the chance table every round of combat early game. Do the opposite late game. And I think that's about it for basic beginner strategies. Okay, so enough about strategy and setup. Let's head back to the table and begin the game. And I'll roll for the initial breakout maneuver. Okay, we start the game. You're going to make a roll to see which route the Bismarck is going to take. And the roll of 1, it's going to be the historical Denmark Strait operation. See how that goes with the expanded search board spaces to the north. So this is going to be from the British perspective. This is how they first fan out on their opening move. The Bismarck is going to move 6 squares diagonally and then across, so it's going to be in 5A there. You can see the British missed it. There's 1 day turn, so they do get 1 roll on the search board chance table, daytime only. The roll of 6, no effect. They don't see anything. So the Bismarck is completely undetected. Evening of May 23rd. So now you have a nighttime turn. Bismarck sails further west by 2 squares. And you can see the British really have no idea. where to look. So they kind of just backed off with Norfolk and Suffolk and missed the Bismarck once again. And there's no search rolls at night, so you can see Lindemann is going to swing south, and he's undetected again. He's one square behind the Norfolk. British still have no clue where the Bismarck is. And then there's the track further southwest into the open Atlantic waters. This will be another night turn. The British cannot search effectively, so we will just move on. Oh, sorry, we've gotten to the day turn already. My mistake. And so the Bismarck is finally located by air reconnaissance. You can see the configuration of the British ships there. So Lindemann adjusts course, and now he's steaming directly south. And you can see the British Armada basically now having a beat on his last known location. The whole sort of Royal Navy's heading west. They roll again, since they're not directly in contact with the Bismarck, and British air reconnaissance sights Lindemann once again. So now they can really close in on him. And you can see the Edinburgh actually begins to shadow Bismarck at this point. And you have the Prince of Wales and the Hood fairly close, due east. But since the Bismarck has been headed on a southern track, the Prince of Wales is going to try and intercept it by sailing southwest and going to intercept the Bismarck in that A box due south. Hopefully, that's the plan for the British. And the two cruisers to the north will close the door behind the Bismarck. But the way the movement played out, it was in fact the Prince of Wales intercepting the Bismarck first. We see the opening salvo from the Bismarck. We'll resolve that first. It's going to be long range. Gets a pretty good roll, lots of hits. I believe the British also have a cruiser in that square as well. So it's not only the Prince of Wales, it is also the Kenya. And I looked that ship up on Wikipedia because I'm not familiar with it. I don't know its history. And it really actually did have a storied, sort of very interesting service history. It did survive the Second World War. But my favorite thing it did was at some point it actually sailed to Russia to pick up payment for some of the aid and arms the West had been giving the Russians. And the payment was in the form of 10 tons of gold bars. So I think that would have been could have been the subject of a good movie or something like that. Imagine if it had sunk in the Atlantic Ocean. Anyway, so the Bismarck is now recording hits on the Prince of Wales with its opening salvo. You often see a lot of secondary gun hits. That result there is fairly typical. Full broadside, long range. But Prince of Wales gets to return fire. Combat, of course, is considered simultaneous. It has, I think, 2 less gun factors to start. So its first round combat It's hard. I found it hard to hold the camera and roll dice at the same time. I'm really not used to a live playthrough, so even though there's live die rolling in this video, there is a lot of edits too. But tried to get a good balance. You can see the Prince of Wales has a fairly or a less effective response. Does record 4 hits on the Bismarck, mostly to the Bismarck's secondary armament as well. Just going to start marking off those hits. Bismarck also takes stern turret damage. So we're now into the second round of combat. Prince of Wales is going to roll on the chance table. He gets a 5, swordfish. So you have to check to see if, I think it's the victorious. It's close enough, within 4 squares. And you can see it's behind, it's trailing the Bismarck and Prince of Wales by about 1 turn. So here comes the swordfish, torpedo bombers, and they miss. So we proceed to the second round. The question is whether or not Prince of Wales is going to try and close range, and they decide to do that. You could put the big quad bow turret facing the Bismarck. It makes the Prince of Wales harder to hit. I think it's a good move. You don't sacrifice much. It's 2 gun factors for a smaller profile. So anyway, we go with the Bismarck first. Those are its front bow turrets, and they score at least 3 hits there, another 3 hits, and then the stern turrets for the Bismarck. Bismarck can only hit on 1 and 2 because the Prince of Wales is sailing right at it. So that 3 doesn't count. So it looks like it's only going to get 3 hits, or maybe 4 hits on the bow turret of the Prince of Wales. I think the Prince of Wales, if I read correctly, it entered this battle with one of the barrels faulty, in the sense that the British knew if they tried to fire it, it would probably break, and it did, as it turns out. So they only really had 3 of the 4 big guns working on the front, although it has a smaller turret behind it. And I think another thing that went wrong was the stern turret during the course of the battle actually jammed. It froze. And I think maybe one of the other turrets did temporarily as well. So it had a lot of problems going into the battle. It was more of a threat on paper. In actuality, they did do some damage. You can see it got a bad roll again, though. Bad roll. It hit the Bismarck again on the stern. But that's about it. That's not very good results. So the situation is such that already after 2 rounds of combat, the Prince of Wales is probably looking to disengage. And I roll on the chance table every turn for the British anyway at the start of the game. Like I said, you want to try and run and gun. And 6, that's going to be another swordfish attack. So the Victorious launches another squadron of torpedo planes, and they miss again. So this is going to be the final round of the regular engagement. So if it goes beyond this, it's going to start round 2, but anything within 1 square on the search board can join the Prince of Wales. I think it will just be more cruisers. But anyway, here's the Bismarck's third round. It's going to get 3 more hits on the bow of the Prince of Wales. So yeah, and that one's going to carry over to flotation. So the front half of the Prince of Wales is basically destroyed. Now he gets to return fire, of course. See what it can do with its bow turrets before they got knocked out. He scores another hit on the Bismarck, and it's another hit on the stern. If you think about it, though, this is that's not insignificant. That's about equivalent to losing one of the four turrets. One of the you can say one of the turrets on the stern of the Bismarck is knocked out of action, which, and you can see this is a critical chance table roll there after round 3. It says like mist descends on the ocean and the ships slip away. So, if that had gone another round, it would have been at close range broadside, and I don't think the Prince of Wales would have survived. So they got lucky there. Prince of Wales does survive, but it's going to disengage. That was a night action too, an evening action. So the Bismarck now cuts back in the night. It's going to sail due east, but it runs directly into the Hood and the Kenya. Oh, so sorry, I don't think the Prince of Wales was by itself there. It was the Hood has the Kenya with it. Yeah, I forgot about that. But what I was saying before, though, the damage to the stern of the Bismarck is fairly significant because it can't really run away from a tactical situation on the battle board effectively now. So, well, it can still, but it's, it would be at half strength. Now, this is a risky move by the British, since the Hood is going to be at 50% effectiveness with its guns because it's at night. This is a night action. But like I said before, I'm going to try and... The Bismarck just lit it up with the first round of combat. This will be a broadside. The Hood's basically firing blind here. So with half gun factors rounded up, it's going to get 5 dice. And it's only going to get, it's going to get 3 hits. That's not bad. And you can say too, in this game, it quickly becomes apparent that, after one major engagement, like this is going to be Bismarck's last chance actually to sink a British capital ship, just because it can, that damage accumulates. So Bismarck's not going to run from this, no matter how bad it gets. It does have the Hood at a disadvantage in terms of gunnery. The Hood will roll on the chance table. And it gets a 3. It says Bismarck turns on shadowing cruisers and carriers in same searchboard zone and sinks one. That's bad. The Bismarck just sank the Kenya. That didn't happen in real life. So they're going to get a victory point there. The Kenya does not get a chance to fire its torpedoes. Hood is going to try to close, and I think I'm going to just do a roll here for the Bismarck. This is just something I made up. I'm going to say on a 1 to 2, Lindemann sticks around, stands his ground, and he does. If it was a 3 to 6, I'm going to say Lütjens would have made him withdraw, even though I think that's historical. He was doing that anyway. Bismarck is kind of worried about a point-blank battle here. So, anyway, it stands its ground. It hits the Hood. It doesn't get a good result there. Second salvo is mostly off the mark. Hood still at half strength, closing with the front turrets. So you can see Bismarck is damaged in the front and back now. This is going to be if the Kenya would have survived, it could have launched a torpedo attack, but it's been destroyed. So this next engagement is at point blank range, and it's going to be a broadside. In the Hood and the Bismarck are both heavily damaged. I don't think either will be sunk. Well, no, the Bismarck won't be sunk here, but they'll both be heavily damaged. The next super important thing is going to be what happens on the chance table. These gun factors will be more destructive because at closer range, I think it's only the 6s. You take out only the 6s. Everything else is going to hit here. So we're not at 2 squares anymore, at A. So you can see 1 to 5 broadside. All of these dice are going to be basically hits. We'll see what's left of the Hood. I don't think it's quite enough to sink it, but it's basically wrecked now. It looks like 1, 2, 5 hits or something. 1, 2, 3, 6 hits. Yeah, I can take it just barely. One carryover. It's got a 3, 4, and a 5 result to record too. So it's going to have another midship hit. Having trouble holding the camera straight, but yeah, I recorded another secondary. But so the Hood does have some secondary guns that bring to bear here, so it has strength. It's still going to be, I think it's going to get 4 dice here, and it's going to only hit 2. So the Bismarck got the better of the Hood there. The Hood has to pray that it can disengage. If it can't, it is going to be sunk for sure. There's just no doubt at this point. So we're going to come up to the most important die roll in the game here. Because it only has 1 flotation box left. So here's the key moment here coming up. Hood needs a 1 or a 2, or it's going to be lights. Oh. British have gotten lucky. They've saved. I put 2 damaged tokens there on the Prince of Wales and the Hood. They will withdraw immediately. There, you can see the next movement. They're breaking off and just heading north. Sorry. There's a fly crawling on my phone there. I swatted it. So Lindemann cuts southwest. In my earlier video, I actually made a mistake. I said that Force H is not released until the 26th. Actually, it's the first time box of the 25th. So you can see the very next turn, it starts to move north and spread out. Bismarck is shadowed now by another cruiser. But that was only for 1 turn. So in the next turn, you can see that it is right there. But the British actually don't see it. I marked it with... that would have been the Bismarck's last known location going into the next turn. So this is nighttime, and so the British just had to move their ships around blindly to see what happens. So will it be intercepted or not? Lindemann now is going to cut northeast to begin the final trip home. And you can see he gets lucky there. The British are going to have to roll on the search table to see if they can find, and they do. So that's unlucky. Well, I mean, the odds are they would sight the Bismarck with air reconnaissance, and they do. So the next turn, this is another daytime turn. Lindemann cuts due north, and that is the British response. And the most unlucky thing happens, the worst possible result for the Bismarck. It just so happens to stumble into the King George V. You can see the Repulse and the Renown were covering the Irish Sea, and the King George V just happened to be in the way, covering the west coast of Ireland, where the Bismarck decided to cut north. So I'm going to have to roll a ton of dice here for the King George V. This is a losing battle for the Bismarck, so now the shoe is on the other foot. The Bismarck has to roll every turn on the chance table, and it's going to need a withdraw result as soon as possible, first or second round of combat at the latest. And if I can get it, Bismarck could be in a good position, because a lot of the British ships now are behind the Bismarck. And you can see this was King George V's opening salvo. And you see this sometimes. You just get really, really bad results. He only got 2 hits with all those guns. And this is another super critical roll now. This is the opportunity that the Bismarck needs to escape. On a 1 or 2, this game is far from over. If it can slip away here, this is going to change. It really needs a 1 or 2 here, though. It doesn't get it 4. So it actually gets the worst result possible. So there's 2 unlucky events that happen back to back. So he's going to get hit with... or no, sorry, was that a 4? I thought that was a swordfish result. It was actually a cruiser. I don't think the King George V does not have a cruiser with it right now. It's by itself. So this is the Bismarck's single gun factor. And it hits the King George V. It's... Bismarck is in tatters. All it's trying to do is escape now. And King George V is closing range. So it's going to be harder to hit in subsequent rounds. It's going to use its forward firepower. I always think it's a good move. Ship's harder to hit when it's hull down against an enemy, not broadside. There's a time and place for that. So it's racking up hits. The Bismarck is just in survival mode here. It's going to close range again. The Bismarck could not. That was probably its last chance here to escape. But instead it gets the swordfish result. And if you look, it doesn't show up well here. I couldn't even aim the camera properly. But both of the... you can see the victorious. The Ark Royal was 1 more 2 squares to the east there. So they were both in range. So 2 squadrons of swordfish are going to attack the Bismarck now. So when it rains, it pours. All of its luck is running out at the same time here. So 2 torpedoes hit the side of the Bismarck. It's So for the first time we see flotation compromised. It can only defend itself with 2 guns and 1 secondary. 1 main gun. So it scored a midship and bow turret. But it's good to see 5 more gun factors. That silences the last of the Bismarck's guns. Its main armament is destroyed. So is its secondary. It's got massive holes in it. So once again, this is a very serious roll. If I can't get a 1 or 2, that's bad. So yeah, there's no torpedoes from cruisers. But what's going to happen is I think so at least 3 cruisers are going to join the King George V and the Repulse. So this is the it's over now. It's over. Because it's a full broadside from the King George V at point blank range, the Repulse broadside long range, and then that one result on the attack table the chance attack table. It's going to be extra deadly as well too, because there's going to be 3 cruisers that could potentially injure the Bismarck with torpedoes here. So this is just a formality, this final die roll. This is King George V, and you're just going to see a ton of hits here because it's point blank range, and all he needs is 3? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's over. That's it. So the King George V sinks the Bismarck off the southwestern corner of Ireland, middle of May 26th. Bismarck sank the cruiser Kenya, defeated the Hood and the Prince of Wales in battle, but did not sink them. And that's a wrap. So, yeah, it's a quick game. It's fun. I think the biggest takeaway I have is the significance of the attack chance table, and whether or not you get to disengage when you want to is really going to determine the outcome of the game. It's all part of it. It's a lot of fun. It's very simple. It's a very efficient, easy to play game engine that had a lot of legs, actually. It is used in Midway, to a certain extent, built off in Midway. Second edition of Bismarck builds off it. But it's very, very playable, highly fun. Yes, luck dependent, but very interesting and enjoyable. And I do plan to create more content related to this, because there's so many other scenarios and fan-made extras and everything. So stay tuned for more content coming soon. Thanks for watching.